Today, we're going to dive into service level indicators, or SLIs. And look, this isn't going to be some dry academic exercise. We're talking about a practical guide for engineers, how to measure what actually matters for your systems and, more importantly, for your users.
So let me start with a question that probably hits a little too close to home for a lot of us. When that pager goes off at 3 a.m., is it because a server is having a tough time, or is it because your users are actually feeling pain? The truth is, there's often a huge gap between those two things, and that's the fundamental problem we're going to tackle today.
All right, so to close that gap, we first have to get our heads around the two very different worlds of metrics that we deal with. There are the metrics that tell us about our machines, and then there are the metrics that tell us about our users' experience. Let's break that down.
On one side, you have the classic system-level metrics we all know and love, right? CPU, memory, disk I/O, basically the vital signs of the server itself. But then, on the other side, you have what your users actually feel. Is the service up? Is it fast? Is the data I'm getting back correct and up to date? These are two totally different ways of looking at health.
And here's the key takeaway. Focusing only on system metrics is, well, it's like a chef checking the oven's temperature instead of tasting the food. Your servers could be pegged at 90% CPU and delivering a flawless user experience. Or they could be sitting idle while your users are staring at a screen full of errors. The bottom line is, how busy your system is has almost nothing to do with how happy your users are.
And this right here is where the service level indicator, the SLI, comes into play. It's the specific tool that's designed to measure that user happiness directly. So let's get a really clear definition of what an SLI is.
Okay, so the formal definition is a quantifiable measure of some aspect of the level of service that is provided to a customer. In plain English, it's a number, a real number that tells you straight up how good your service is from the only perspective that matters, your customers. It's not a guess, it's a direct measurement.
So how do you actually build one? Well, every SLI is made of three simple parts. First, you define the event. What's the specific thing the user is doing? An API call, a page load, whatever. Second, you define your success criterion. What does a good event look like? Maybe it's a response that comes back in under 100 milliseconds. And finally, the calculation is just simple division. The number of good events divided by the total number of events. That percentage is your SLI. That's it.
And it's so critical to understand that SLIs are the absolute foundation of modern reliability engineering. You can't have meaningful targets, your service level objectives, or SLOs, and you definitely can't have useful error budgets unless you first have a solid, user-focused SLI. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with this measurement.
Now, defining SLIs sounds pretty straightforward, but in the real world, this is where a lot of teams get tripped up. So let's walk through some of the most common mistakes so that you can sidestep them completely.
The biggest, most common mistake by far is picking a metric like CPU utilization to be your SLI. I mean, think about it. High CPU doesn't automatically mean users are having a bad time. Maybe you're just using your cloud resources efficiently. That's an internal implementation detail. It tells you nothing about the quality of service you're delivering.
Oh man, this is a big one. Averages are incredibly deceptive. An average latency of 200 milliseconds might sound great, but it could be hiding the fact that 5% of your users are waiting 5, 10, even 15 seconds. That's a horrible experience. That's why we always use percentiles, like the 95th or 99th percentile, because they tell us the story for the vast majority of our users, not just some misleading average.
And finally, there's the siren song of convenience. It's so tempting to just use whatever metric your monitoring dashboard gives you for free. But look, the right SLI, the one that actually reflects what your users care about, might require you to write some custom code to do a little extra instrumentation. Trust me, it's always better to measure what matters, not just what's easy.
Okay, so that's what not to do. Let's flip it around and talk about a clear step-by-step way to define really great, effective SLIs.
It really boils down to a simple four-step process. First, identify a critical user journey. What's one of the most important things a user does with your service? Second, pick a metric that actually represents a successful outcome for that journey. Third, define the threshold for good. What does success look like? And fourth, go and implement the code to actually measure it and do the calculation.
Let's look at this table to make it really concrete. Take API latency. The user journey is simple. Someone's trying to look up data. The SLI type is latency, and the specification is totally unambiguous. What percentage of API GET requests complete in under 100 milliseconds? See? Specific, It's measurable and it's 100% focused on the user. And that same logic applies just as well to things like availability, data freshness, or correctness.
So why do we go through all this trouble? Why does this matter so much? Because implementing good SLIs isn't just some technical busywork. It actually transforms how engineering teams operate.
And this right here is the whole game. It completely changes the conversation. You stop asking, is the server okay? And you start asking, is the user okay? That shift moves your entire team from just reacting to fires to proactively defending and protecting the actual user experience. It's a huge change in mindset.
When you have good SLIs, you can finally make real, data-driven decisions about reliability work. It gets everyone, engineering, product, the business, all pointing in the same direction, aligned on user happiness. It ends those endless subjective debates about whether a system is down, because now you have a number, and that allows for much more productive conversations about what your priorities should be.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to take back to your team. If you had to pick a single metric, just one, that defines whether your users are having a successful experience with your product, what would it be? Because the answer to that question, well, that's the start of your very first and probably your most important